Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello, folks. How you doing? I hope your week is going well. You're listening to Colney Talk Podcast, a bite-sized show. I'm your host, Alex. New listeners, thank you for joining. And to my other returning listeners, glad to have you back. As usual, I'll be discussing my top 3 players in the game and the other guy below levels of quality and sharpness and not so good performance. The top, Arsenal versus the bottom, Wolves at Millennium. Great win by the boys, a 2-0 victory. Zinchenko back in the starting lineup straight away. An unusual situation for Xhaka. Sometimes that can affect the morale of the players trying to start off quick. I'm glad that it didn't. Jesus always causing problems starting off with his offside goal. That was just, it was a beautiful move right there. I think that helps start with some sort of emotion and a quick energy for the rest of the team to kind of see how quick we want to get into the score sheet. In Arsenal, we were getting firm in our passing rhythm. I just pay a little bit more attention to that. I mentioned that in the previous podcast because we know about our formation. We know how possessive we can be. We know how imposing we can be. But I think the level in our passing, the quick passes, how we can cut through defenses, how we can cause a disruption in the formation is some closer attention that I've been paying closely to our key players like Odegaard, like Jesus, Martinelli, Xhaka, even Ben White as he comes in as an overlap. These incisive passes do raise the level because it changes the way things happen. It changes how some teams will sit and want to absorb our defense. So just getting to see a little bit more firmness and quick, incisive, crisp passes and passing rhythm has been something I've looked at with greater detail. Attention rather, and I see that improving. But Wolves were stacked up in defense in a very good defensive formation. I'll give them credit the way they played. It's not necessarily the most glamorous, but it was good because it was effective. They had one of the best quick fast breaks, and their transitions were really effective because they had very speedy players and quality attackers up front. But it was very hard to break through Wolves' defense. As usual, Arsenal just continued controlling the game with so much of the ball, but that also comes with patience. As I mentioned with these passes, it could be crisp as we get into their boxes, but we have to also include some patience in some movements, and they usually pay off. Gabriel Jesus doing amazing things, coming in to help in defense. So abnormal for a front man to be doing this. I just want to make sure I mention that. You don't often see your striker, your main man up front, tracking back within the midfield, get the ball back and try to move it back up into the attack or into the final third of the opponents, especially in this case Wolves. It is so abnormal. I don't remember so many games in where that happens. Could that also be a consequence of not having an attack up front right away? Yes, but that does not mean this doesn't help in our overall possession or dominance to score or do something. It really does, and this is just special credit for Jesus doing that, and I'm sure this is going to be something that helps affect the players and see how he plays, and everyone will follow suit in making sure like they follow that same kind of obsessive drive to stay on the front, to kind of like make something happen right away or score a goal and continue pressing on that way. I dare you to tell me who doesn't respect that out of an attacker, let alone a striker on the pitch. He just does so phenomenally doing that. I don't think I can compare any other striker doing that with him or even close to doing that. If listeners, if you know anyone, drop in the comments or let me know, because he just seems to be the only one in an island on his own in this kind of a quality of possession. We had very notable hairy moments with Wolves hitting Arsenal on the counter. That was their plan in the first half anyway. That's usually their plan on hitting us on the counter. They were playing in a very organized fashion. Arsenal, we were on high alert for Wolves for fast break and that counter anyways, but we had to manage that in some ways as casualty, getting some yellow cards to kind of slow some of their momentum in some of these possessions when it happened and when we lost the ball a few times. But the biggest scare of all was in the first half where Silva had a blind back pass and this would have been a goal. Thankfully it wasn't. I mean, Wolves did cause us problems. We were playing away, and this also adds into some level of energy that Wolves will have since they're playing at home, and that confidence that would help them do something. Because although they are bottom in the league, they don't play like it. They don't look like it. You would ask, what does a team that's in the bottom league look like? You would see that when you watch a game. And I can tell you, Wolves don't look like that. At least in this game, they didn't. They were ready for it. They were up for it. They had their formations very firm, and they were really brisk with their counter. And we were not comfortable managing that in the first half. So something is noteworthy, and I'm glad we absorbed as much as we could in our formation and in the absence of Xhaka, because he is such a crucial player who helps absorb and redirect some of these kinds of pressure when we're playing, because he helps in the attack and he helps so much in the defense as well. So the fact that his absence, we didn't have such of a drop-off, was such an amazing thing to have. And that leads me to my top 3 standout performance in the match. First, Jesus. I mentioned his name when I started, and I can't speak enough about how he plays. Pre-assist in the first goal, tracking back on every defensive duty, instigating goal chances in the box, and a good link up with Martinelli and Vieira. Absolute class of a display. Absolute class. His goal scoring is not missing, in my opinion. It's just there. It's a matter of time. He has different chances. He shoots. It doesn't get in, but it's coming. And I'm going to be one of those players that is not worried at all, because these assists, these goals, if it's not him and it's going in, I could care less, because we're winning and it's keeping us exactly at the top. He's here to score goals, but if he's also here to affect goals, I mean, that's just the same, that we kind of hoped from him, and he's doing that. So more of that, more of this, Jesus, and I'm so glad that he continues to do this and influence the other attackers to play like him and do the same with the qualities, especially on the defensive duty. I mean, there's going to be so much more about this in subsequent games, and all eyes will watch this and make sure that they would hope their other attackers will play like him, because it's such a beautiful quality to have. I mean, I didn't think of this for an attacker until I saw Jesus play for Arsenal. My second player, Odegaard, he was in the driver's seat, calling for the ball. He was doing the business in this game, redirecting the pressure from Wolves, connecting very well with Partey and Vieira. This was my first game to see both playmakers, Odegaard and Vieira, really playing in sync and connecting in different positions and moving really well. Like, this is good, and I hope to see other games where they have this relationship and how they can connect between each other, because it's a really good connection, and from an attacking standpoint, it favors us very well without so much of that pressure being on Odegaard just alone. He could be a decoy and have Vieira do some of that and make much more, which can cause a lot of problems for defenses. And such of that outlet helps in the midfield lines and helps to push up Wolves' box, push up through some of these lines that they had covered to kind of put up as a defense, not making us break through. But this collaboration with Vieira and Odegaard was really effective, I'll say, especially in the second half. My third player, Big Gabby, another solid defensive performance, very alert. No nonsense clearance in Arsenal's box. Fantastic close in on Guedes. He played really well. He had his eye on him. A lot of his defensive play saved us and helped uphold the clean sheet for us from Ramsdale. I mean, we had a few mistakes here and there that would have led to goal scoring chances. Ramsdale did his own good job of keeping things clean in the back there. He didn't have so much to do, but he was very alert, and Big Gabby helped neutralize some of those big shots that would have maybe leaked out and maybe a tap in of some sort. So, big performance from him, and I'm glad that a lot of people are also taking notice. My other guy today, I know I didn't have any in my last podcast, but today I do have, and it's Saliba. He's had quite a number, serial mistakes within him lately, and he had in the past. He had one other again in the back, and he has had some of these bad plays in the back. And glad it has not caused us games, knock on wood, but I want to see these mistakes cleaned up. I want to see his intellect, his sharpness, his attention, raise up, because we know Gabi had a few of these. He learned, he has corrected that, and I hope we don't see these kinds of mistakes resurface. But I know that there is so much of attention for Saliba to clean these things up. It's good that he can fix it now that it's being called out. He has seen it himself. He knows. He's working on it, I'm sure, but at least we would like to see it corrected as quickly as possible. We are probably going to watch so many other games and see how much of that improvement and the turnaround will be for it. So he's my other guy today, but I'm glad it hasn't caused us any problems, especially for this game as far as this podcast is concerned. But that's a wrap for another bite size, folks. Jesus, Odegaard, Big Gabi make up my top 3 player, and the other guy, Saliba, for this game. I hope you enjoy. Please share with your friends and subscribe. We get to enjoy this win, a decent lead in points, well into this long break for the World Cup. So here's to hoping our key players come back in good health without any kinds of injuries during the World Cup tournament. Good luck to all of them. We will be watching and cheering on. Until then, thanks for listening. Speak to you when we get back. Happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas to you all, Arsenal fans, and all the fans listening to this podcast. I will talk to you when we get back. Take care, and bye.